All right, perfect. Okay, cool. Cool. So we are here. We have our guests here, Kareem. Is it Matthias or Matthews? I want to
Matthias.
say proper. Matthias, right. Kareem Mathias works in cybersecurity in the same field as myself, governance, risk, and compliance. And he is here just to talk about his experience in the field, give you guys some advice, you know, uh, what he's experienced, what he's done as far as building things out. Um, and yes, he has, a decade of experience in the field. He is hailing out of Philadelphia. That is my home city as well. So big respect to this man. Big respect to this man. So, Mr. Kareem, I will let you introduce yourself and what you do in more detail, and then we'll go there with the Q&A. All right?
Perfect. All right. So, good evening, everyone. My name is Kareem Mathias. I work in governance, risk, and compliance at KBRA. That is a financial services company specializing in bond rating and securities. A lot of my day-to-day includes doing risk assessments for our third-party vendors, disaster recovery planning, and business continuity slash business impact assessments. So, been in the field a while, have bounced around a few different roles, and have had different experiences that have really rounded me out. Can't wait to get into all that and just talk about how fruitful and how interesting a career cybersecurity is.
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely. Very great introduction. Very great introduction. So we're gonna introduce the Q&A section. And for those who are new, our organization is called Tech Hub Labs. So we are a cybersecurity and AI cohort training program. And what we do is for 14 weeks, we teach you how to study and take the Security Plus exam, with also doing labs and career development as far as making sure that you understand what a day in the life looks like as a cybersecurity engineer. And then we also do job readiness workshops and more. So that's is who we are. We are, on a mission to get 100,000 of us into cybersecurity, AI, and tech. All right. So that is who we are. Okay. So, Kareem, I'm going to ask you this question first. Okay. So, imagine someone wants to get into tech or cybersecurity and they don't know anything about cybersecurity at all. They don't know, any of the job roles. They don't know what certifications. They don't understand what cybersecurity is, right? You, as a person that works in the field and especially in GRC, my question to you is, if someone doesn't know what to do to get in the field, what is the first thing they need to do to start?
Well, my recommendation is to start at the beginning, the foundational type of certifications, which would be the Security Plus from CompTIA. The reason why I recommend that is because that certification has you study all of the different areas of security, and there are several. And then from there, you can go off of that foundation and pick an area to specialize in. So, for example, I work in security GRC, and the way I got into that was through being an IT auditor before, which an IT auditor is someone that analyzes security controls that a company may have. And then I went on the security side. But if you're starting from scratch with no prior experience, you want that security plus because it qualifies you for the entry level positions across different roles in security. And then you can choose to specialize once you pick a direction you want to go into.
Mhm. Got you. Great. Okay. So, okay, you're in GRC. You came from being, security controls assessor. What initially drew you to the field of cybersecurity, and what keeps you motivated to stay in it?
Well, what really drew me to it was curiosity, the idea that security is something that is integral to every company across every industry. And
Mhm.
so, in seeing that it's something that is in universal demand, I realized, okay, well, this is something I want to be a part of. And what keeps me in it is having worked the majority of my career in financial services. I love being that bridge between the technical aspect of an organization and the business aspect of an organization. The two sides always need to understand each other. However, there requires a good deal of translation between the two sides because there might be conflicting, not necessarily conflicting priorities, but the overlap of priorities between a business team and a technology team might not always align 100%. So it takes a lot of coordination and understanding to make sure that's the case.
Got you, got you. And it's very essential, for teams to understand what the security posture looks like, right? That really helps when it comes to, uh, thwarting, hackers and breaches. Everyone needs to be all on one accord, and that's, a lot to do with your job. Okay. So, um, I guess another question is, what are some common misconceptions people have about cybersecurity?
One common misconception that people have is the nature of hacking, in that it's just someone behind a laptop using code to brute force into things. And while there is a component of that, a lot of cybersecurity is on one end humans, people, not doing all the things that they need to do to make sure that the I's are dotted and T's are crossed, and then folks exploiting those vulnerabilities. But also, there's a huge social aspect to
Mm,
hacking where it's looking up information, looking up targets, subjects, understanding all the different facets of who does what with a company. That's why, for example, phishing, when a hacker might send fake messages to someone in order to get information, you have to target that a little bit and curate it. And with AI tools, it's becoming easier and easier to do so. And so a lot of it is a numbers game as well. So it's a continuation of scams back in the day where you would take advantage of casting a wide net, where it only has to really work once for a hacker to be able to benefit from taking advantage of someone. So again, I would say the social aspect and also the fact that it's a numbers game. Companies are being attacked every second of every day by messages, spam, links, phishing messages, and incidents can come at any moment. So it's really understanding that it's a type of environment where there's always something. There's always something happening.
got you. Makes sense. Makes sense. Okay. Now, um, this is another question. Um, what certifications or educational paths do you consider most valuable for someone entering the cybersecurity field? Like, there's a big, divide. Some people say school, go to school, get your degree, right? And other people lean towards, um, certifications, right? Getting into field. I'm someone that got their certifications, to get into cybersecurity. But there's also a study that says, hey, it doesn't matter what school you go to, or if you went to MIT, or if you went to Jacksonville State, or if you got your certification, people perform well, and it's really about the delivery of, the goods or the job. What would you say is, the preferred path you would go down, or you would, advise someone to do?
Well, I will say degrees are good for checking boxes, but in my experience with my undergraduate degree, I went to Drexel University and have a bachelor's in management information systems. However, the vast majority of what I learned has been in my career and studying for the certifications that I have. So I have the CISA, the Certified Information Systems Auditor certification, the CISM, the Certified Information Security Manager certification, and then the CISSP, the Certified Information System Security Professional certification. And so in studying for all of those, it was a huge leap in my knowledge level because when you're doing your day to day, you're doing a lot of depth learning because you're learning to get good at your specific role. But each certification is more about breadth because it's an exam often that's about a lot of different subjects that you might touch on 50, 60, 70% in your day to day, but not really go 100% on some of it. And so that's important. And the most important thing I would say, especially with certifications and real world experience, is understanding that each vehicle is a means to an end, and the end is skill. The I've said this ever since I've started working. The most important thing in job security is what you know how to do and are capable of. Because you don't get a job just for having a degree. You don't even get a job for just having a certification. But having skills that are in demand, things that you can do that people want done, that'll give you job security. That'll give you results. And the only way you can really learn that is through doing and through learning from doers, people who are in the industry, really on top of the game, really innovating, doing things day to day that bring the industry forward.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yes, that is 100% right, right? Your skill determines, how long you're employed and how much influence you have at a company, right? So at the end of the day, you are judged on the results that you provide, so that is a very good point, right? Degrees don't necessarily get you the job, as we can all see these days, and then certifications don't necessarily get you the job, but they do get your foot in the door. But it's about how you carry yourself, right? How you deliver on those promises, on those work duties. So, very good point, very good point. And also, I would say I want to ask you this question too. Uh, how important is it to finding a niche, right? Finding something that's, very specific. For example, we can say, PCI DSS, or, doing a SOX audit, or, you're good with using Nessus for vulnerability management. Why is it important for someone to, master a niche?
I think it's important for someone to master a niche because, to put it simply, you get really good at it. And the only way you can really get good at something is through repetition. Also, I think each job, each career is made up of two components: soft skills and hard skills. So, soft skills are the same all across the board: being personable, being dependable, being punctual, thoughtful, just being able to interact and exchange ideas with people. But once you have that soft skill foundation, the hard skills are what differentiate you from your peers. If you're someone that is personable, likable, dependable, and able to execute, and you're able to execute something in a way that few others can, demand will come. Demand will be there. And it's something that you can really practice and work at. So, and specialization is important because it differentiates you from other folks in the market. And if you're able to add your own personal spin, it'll differentiate you even more.
Got you. That was good. Really good, really good. All right, so all these cybersecurity skills, um, but now you want to stay updated, okay? And it is a constantly ever evolving field. What's the best way for someone, who's just getting into an entry level role to stay updated in cybersecurity?
I'd say it's a combination of things. YouTube is fantastic for finding daily shows or weekly shows that talk about cybersecurity. Podcasts, Twitter, those are all good sources. And something for someone who's starting a career, I would say make a LinkedIn page, follow people in your network, follow folks who do what you want to do. I think the best educator for any profession is looking at the pinnacle of that profession. So if you want to be a pen tester, look up top-notch pen testers because they're often sharing stories or articles or case studies that they find interesting. If you want to be a SOC analyst, if you want to be an incident handler, look up people who do that thing so that you can learn through the material that they share. That way you'll be able to keep up to date in what are the best practices. I also recommend sources like IANS and ISACA. Those are organizations in cybersecurity and information security that go a long way in hosting conferences, which is another good source, and publishing publications that have best practices for different aspects of security.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. All right. I'm going to take this time for you know, everyone in the audience to ask some questions before we do another round of more questions for Kareem, okay? So whoever has a question, please feel free to go, and then we'll load up another batch of questions, right?
Yeah, sure. I'm excited. You can ask me anything. I'm open book. Okay, perfect. Looks like Kamal has a question.
Yes, sir. How you doing? Kamel here, colleague of Deontay. I also work in cybersecurity manager. Been kind of working in security for like 3 or 4 years now. I kind of missed, your background. I don't know if you shared that already, but um, I think for me, being in the industry now and kind of understanding all of the different facets, kind of similar to what you guys talked about, but specializing in a specific skill set. Um, but like, what do you say? Like, I guess that determines what type of level of leadership you want to have in this industry. Where for me, I'm trying to figure out where I best fit, but while leveraging all of the things I learned. So I currently manage, our security stock team as far as incident response and endpoint detections, being involved in business continuity calls or disaster recall. Like, so I experienced it all. So I'm just trying to really hone in where, it's kind of difficult to kind of manage that as well as being a manager. So just more so your opinion on how you kind of, um, manage the day-to-day responsibilities that you have as a cybersecurity, professional as well. And I don't know if you also lead a team, but like, what do you say to somebody that's managing that as well as having a lifestyle balance, personal balance between that and work?
Well, a lot of what I like to do when juggling multiple things is really sort of write down all the different areas that you're managing that are important to you. So, for example, if you are managing a team, that's its own column or that's its own row. If you're handling the aspect of your day to day, that's its own. If you're working on self improvement so you can get better, that's its own row or its own column or whichever. And then take some time each day, each week, and think, what am I doing with this? Can I be better? Can I pay more attention to this? That? Basically, audience and think, am I going about this area? That way, it's centered. A lot of times in life, we're sort of moved by the forces of life because in trying
Yeah, I just muted that. No problem.
all that to say, we're all folks who are able to control the direction our life is going, and our lives are all open ended. But it's easy to forget that because you're doing what you might feel like you should do. And it's important to you can step back and think, well, what's the most effective way I can do this? I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it was a very broad question, but I definitely appreciate your feedback there. But thanks for the insight and information you've been providing so far. It's definitely helpful. I can definitely attest that I've experienced a number of the recommendations and suggestions that you're sharing with people that are trying to get into the cybersecurity industry. So salute you and all that you're doing, as well as Deontay and kind of paving the way for others to kind of, find their way into IT or just, cybersecurity as well as far as all the different areas that you can work in. So appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for your question. Any other questions?
Anybody else have any questions before we move on? Okay, let me go and ask this question. Uh, Takia, did you have a question? All right. So, what does a day in the life look for Kareem, in GRC?
That's a good question. So I like to start my days out by looking at the different segments of my job that I'm accountable for and think, what are my deliverables for today for this subset of my role? So in handling third-party risk, BIA, DR, what third-party risk assessments do I have today? Do I need to reach out to anybody? What meetings do I need to schedule? What meetings do I have? For BIAs, what reports am I helping complete? Who am I reaching out to? What do I need to document? What do I need to research? For disaster recovery? The same thing. And essentially, I try to start at a high level of bucket, 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 and then go in, zoom into a greater level of detail from there, and try to create my day in an ordered fashion so that and I know I'm not able to stick to that rigidly because things come up, but more so have it where I know the things that I need to do and know the points that I need to hit so that things don't get lost. I really like to write and use a notebook, indispensable for taking notes and just understanding and ordering my thoughts so that I'm able to do my day to day in an ordered way.
Gotcha, gotcha. Okay, so some of the things, because I work in GRC as well. So we do things like risk assessments or audits. Tell us a little bit more about, the necessary tasks that happens in, audits, risk assessments, or questionnaires. You know, what does a day look like when we do those tasks?
Sure. So when I'm doing a risk assessment, for example, it might be an application that someone would want to use. One thing that's really come up recently is folks want to use ChatGPT in my company. So what that would look like is looking at the request, looking at the assessment, and understanding, well, what is the business case for this? What are we using it for? What are the security controls that we either have in place or need to have in place so that the data of what we are sharing with them is secure? What are we sharing with them? Who has access to this? Who will be using it? Do I need to schedule a follow-up meeting to understand those questions? How does ChatGPT work? Do they have security documentation website like SOC 2 or a security white paper so that I understand that it's a lot of research. It's a lot of reading and understanding the different tools that I or folks in my company might use in order to understand how they're going to interact. A lot of that is because cybersecurity IT is like an ecosystem within a company where different parts are talking to. There's a million SaaS applications, data's going all over the place. And a lot of what I like to do is try to order that and bring order to it so that it's understood what the company's information assets are and how they are being monitored and tracked.
Gotcha, gotcha. So, for example, the CrowdStrike situation that happened, right? That is like a quintessential, to me, an SDLC process gone wrong. Um,
Absolutely.
if you can really, if you did some further research to that, would you be able to kind of like, basically, provide an overview of, how you use a GRC to make sure that situation didn't happen? Just any thoughts on that situation as a whole?
Sure. So with the CrowdStrike situation, they pushed an update in a way that wasn't really ordered, or it wasn't really ordered, and it looks like it broke a lot of people's machines, to put it simply. So what I do comes in is I do assessments on what applications are we using and how do those applications affect folks downstream within the company. For example, do we use CrowdStrike? What teams use CrowdStrike? To what capacity do they use CrowdStrike? Is it something that can be disabled or disentangled from the thing that they're supposed to deliver? What would the downtime be? How long can we be down for before we start losing money? How soon do we need to be back operational? So a lot of what I try to do is be proactive and preemptive. A large part of that is disaster recovery planning and testing. If this application went down for any period of time, what would you do? So I would say the biggest thing that I do with respect to the CrowdStrike situation is from a third-party risk and business impact assessment perspective, understanding how applications that come into the organization affect it and are nestled into that ecosystem. And then from a disaster recovery perspective, if this goes down, what would we do next? I guess to answer your question more succinctly, when it comes to CrowdStrike, I would try to understand what the impact will be and then react once the impact happens. Those are the two parts of my job.
Got you. Very essential. Kamel, you have a question?
Yeah, and I just wanted to add to that. I think another component well is, can you guys hear me? Yeah, another component of that as well is also considering the third party vendors that you work with. I think for my company, when that happened, we weren't impacted, luckily, because we don't use CrowdStrike, but it did
Sure.
impact the clients that we work with where they were impacted. So it did interrupt like business processes or operations where, again, understanding the third party agreement and what tools they leverage, I think is a good component of like the risk assessment as well.
Absolutely.
And I think that also applies to another component of like patch management. You know, with some of the agents that are installed on these endpoints, you have to understand when, you know, those patches are getting deployed or what the impact to, you know, the software or an end user would involve, and kind of planning around that. So I think with this, you know, all members could be at fault, but at the same time, it did have a huge impact on CrowdStrike, and I think like even the customers and clients that they work with, and I think some of the lawsuits, you kind of question your trust in some of these vendors that you work with because a lot of the, you know, misconfigurations and or hacking attempts are likely from third party vendors that backfire to the client. So I just wanted to add that point that some of those additional things that also should, you know, are involved in that too.
100%, 100%. And one thing I'm a huge proponent of that I don't think any organization does enough of is backups and testing of those backups. For example, if the patch that caused the disruption wasn't working, do you have a backup plan? Are you able to back up to a more recent instance of whatever your software, whatever you're running? And do you test needing to back up? Well, do you test recovering a backup often enough to know that's a dependable move that you can do? In my experience, no one backup, well, not no one, but everyone will be best served backing up and testing recovery as often as possible without being an interruption to the business, because being able to recover from a disaster is essential, and the only way to do that is to have well laid plans.
I guess just to add, do you realistically think that most companies, like even Microsoft and CrowdStrike, are doing those disaster recovery exercises and actually testing as much as they should be?
No, and that gets into the nitty gritty of security, where a lot of businesses, even businesses that are effectively software companies, see security as a utility. They see security as something that should just work and operate without much thought of it being something that is very difficult, going against the grain, and is challenged constantly. So, unless you're in security or tangentially related to security, you don't understand how difficult it is to enable a business to operate effectively while also making sure it's happening securely. And the fact that it works as often as it does is a testament to the professionals in it. But no, I don't think they're doing as much as I think companies do as much security as they feel they can get away with doing, basically.
Definitely agree there. Gotcha.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Hey, so really great commentary on that. So let's get into some more personal questions, okay? So can you describe you know, a challenging situation or a security incident where you had to handle it? And you know, once you handled it, how did you resolve it? You know, what are some of the things you do, like as far as, you know, communication to other teams, or, you know, like you said, did you have a backup ready? What are some of the challenges that you've experienced and how did you resolve it?
Well, one of the biggest challenges that I've seen in my company is a philosophy called you build it, you own it, where there's a lot of autonomy given to software engineers to do their job and make things happen. But when it comes to that, it's sort of the opposite of governance, where you have a business plan, you have an IT plan that supports that business plan, and everyone falls in line. So with that said, there was an instance where we had this application that pulls data from one place to another, not to go into too much detail. And that application was set up by the vendor that makes it. And they have a certain level of access in order to be able to do the things that they need to do to help us support it and help us stand it up. But recently we did an audit, well, not audit, but did an assessment of the application just to see how it's running. And we saw that the vendor still had admin access to our application years after they shouldn't have had it revoked. And so a lot of what I see as a problem is the centralization of IT controls and then the enforcement of IT controls. And that's another thing I see as an issue too. It's one thing to know security best practices, but it's another thing to have support from management to enact security best practices. And so, depending on the security posture of a company, depending on their appetite for risk and security, you get to be a cop, you get to be Shamar Moore from SWAT, or you're like a parking authority person giving people tickets. And it really depends on your leadership, how much authority you have to make things happen, unfortunately, where you can just say, hey, you need to comply with this regulation, you got to do this, or pretty please, can you do this? It would make our company so much more secure. And it just being diplomatic with how you're able to help folks understand the security needs that they have to protect the organization goes a long way. That's why I think it's very important to understand the business side as well as the IT side.
Absolutely. Very great answer. Very great answer. All right. So you being a black man in, cybersecurity, obviously, I'm sure you ran into some, questionable things or maybe microaggressions from your colleague. How's your experience been? And if you had like a challenging moment, what are some of the things you've done to really resolve that issue or, make yourself known, whether it's your company or the industry?
Well, one thing that I'm sure you see at conferences and at different companies you've been at is that there's not a lot of folks that look like us at these different companies doing cybersecurity. It's just a thing we live with. One thing that I do that helps me get through it is I don't look externally for validation. I look internally, and I always expect more of myself than anyone could possibly expect from me. And so, with that, when the microaggressions come, I don't even feel it because I'm looking at what I could be and focus on that so much that I'm not really bothered by what their opinion might be if it's not serving to get there. So I keep it very goal oriented. And I've had managers in the past that weren't really for me and didn't really afford me the respect that I should have gotten based on my race, based on whatever it could have been. But I didn't let it stop me because I'm always looking ahead as what can I do? How can I further innovate? How can I get further in what I'm trying to do? So I guess the best way I would say to get past microaggressions or people trying to hold you back is to not stay still.
Absolutely. So always looking to improve and always looking to, do your best, and I tell all the core members, hey man, you gotta be like Jordan. If you want to get in this industry, you gotta be like Jordan, LeBron, Kobe. You just don't sit back. You want to do very well. So very
Absolutely.
good.
Absolutely. When I see a position I want to apply to, for example, I want to look at my experience and resume and be overqualified. Not even because I think I need to be, but just because I don't even want there to be a question of, well, did he do it? Can he get in? Can he do it? Yeah, without debate. That's the type of driven I am to be able to check those boxes and be able to fit the needs for those positions because I don't want to leave it up to them. I want to leave it where what I can contribute is so objective, their bias can't even overcome that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So my question is, hey, what advice would you give to someone looking to transition from cybersecurity? In our cohort, we get a lot of people coming from different fields, counseling, teachers, people who just been, maybe stuck in IT for a long time, police officers. What advice would you give to someone that wants to get into cybersecurity, desire to get into it?
I would say take it one step at a time. In addition, so two things at once. Look at someone who's at where you want to be, and then work backwards to where you are, and then take it one step at a time. If you see that someone's a pen tester, look at what they do. What certifications do they have? What courses do they take? What jobs do they have leading up to their current position? How far away is the lowest job they have from where you are now? How far up their ladder can you start before you're able to walk that path? And once you have your footing, you might not even take the exact same path as them. You might have different challenges or different opportunities come your way. But the idea is the best way to start on a path is start on a path that's been well worn, established. And then if it branches for you, take those opportunities one step at a time.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. That's really good, really good. One step at a time, making sure that you're carefully planning on where you want to go. And what I did to get into cybersecurity, I reverse engineered. So, what do you think about that? Like you said, see somebody, where they're at, and then kind of do the steps in reverse. Is that good for someone who maybe doesn't know about cybersecurity, or should they, always reach out, get a mentor? What do you think about that?
I think reaching out and get a mentor is
Mm,
important too,
mm,
especially because you need to have those relationships in order to help you work on the things that you can
mm,
improve on, but also understand that this is an achievable exercise. This is something that people have done and that you can do. And that's
mm,
what people need to know. It's doable, it's
mm,
solvable,
mm,
achievable. People do it every day. People have done it, and you can do it too.
mm. And you can make it bad. Let's talk
Exactly.
about
Yeah,
it.
exactly. Anyone can do this.
Exactly. Exactly. All right, so here's my last questions before we go into the last round of questions
Okay.
from from people in the audience. But GRC isn't really intensive when it comes to pressing buttons and using tools. But however, we do use tools as far as inventory and risk assessments and things of that nature. So, what are some of the tools you find that you use day to day? What are some of the important tools that you must have in your toolbox as a GRC engineer?
Well, this is going to sound a little unconventional. However, I would say the most important tools that I use, and arguably the most important tools everyone uses. And I'm not in the software side, so not like GitLab or anything like that. But OneNote, Excel, Power BI, because you can be great at what you do, you can be fantastic at what you do, but the most important thing that contributes to that is being able to document it, record it, take notes on it, and report it to other people. I can I can't count the amount of times where I needed to have my notes thorough in order to be. It happened to me today, where I was in a meeting with someone and they basically didn't do something I needed them to do, and they said, "Oh, Kareem, I need you to be more on top of making sure I know that this is what you're trying to do." And I said, "Well, here's my email that I sent you that said this is what I was asking for." Okay, well, what about it? Here's the invite that I sent you describing that, and here's this. Having that documentation and being so familiar with your stuff that if someone asks you a question, you're not nervous. You're not, oh, you know it. You speak to it. I would say fluency in your profession is the most important thing. And the way to do that is tools like OneNote, tools like Excel, making presentations to people to take the abstracts of what you do and make it more succinct so folks who aren't in your day to day can understand it. And then Power BI for data metrics and data analytics. So I hope that helps. I really get a lot out of note taking tools and then documentation and information sharing tools.
Exactly. That was really good. Really good. I definitely agree with that. All right. Well, this is the time for anyone to ask some questions for Kareem. Don't be shy. He is here to help you in your journeys into cybersecurity. But yes, feel free to ask him some questions. And then after questions, We'll just go over some few important dates for the upcoming cohort, and then we'll get out of here. All right. I know y'all got some questions now.
You can ask me anything, really. What's my favorite color? iPhone or Android? Anything.
I'm not sure if you said it already. My name is Takaya, but do you have any certifications?
Yes, I have a CISA, a CISM, and a CISSP.
Hey, my name is Mikkel. I missed the beginning of the Zoom. If you wouldn't mind going over your background, because I probably missed it.
Sure. So, in two or three sentences, I graduated from Drexel with a bachelor's in MIS. I work as a security risk manager, GRC, whatever you want to call it, for a financial services company called KBRA. A lot of what I do day to day is third-party risk assessments, business impact assessments, and disaster recovery planning. And I have the certifications I just named. I really enjoy cybersecurity and try to think of it as a job and a career. A job, as in, it's something where don't let it keep you up at night. Unless you're on call, then it keeps you up all night. For folks, my folks who are working positions where you're on call, I feel for you. But if it's not that, don't let it be something you lose sleep over. We're not surgeons. That said, think of it as a career and that you always want to be a student of your profession. All of the best folks in their different careers that we can think of, the Jordans, Kobe's, etc., are people who took their profession so seriously because they constantly want to get better at it. They don't stay stagnant. They're never satisfied with just being okay or mediocre. Think of it as something that's continuously improving and you're improving along with it.
So, Kareem, I know that you got your looks like you're
Hey, D, speak into the mic.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me better?
Oh yeah, fantastic. No, yeah.
All right, perfect, perfect. So, I had a question about your experience applying roles, stuff like that, and the importance of certifications in this industry, especially as someone who graduated with, undergraduate degree in, information systems. Can you kind of like dive into like the need of certifications in this industry and why the governing bodies put so much emphasis on being certified?
Well, it's important because certifications are like a baseline level of knowledge that if I'm hiring, I know you at least know this. And so it's a good way to shorthand what someone is capable of. More so than a degree, I would say, because different universities have different standards of education to an extent. Some are harder than others. And so you don't really know what someone knows with just a bachelor's degree. But if you have a security certification, you know they at least know what's being tested because they have to pass an exam to get it. They don't just give them away if you show up and pay your bills. So with that said, that's why organizations take them so seriously. And I think certifications are important for just taking a notch on what your skill set is so that you can look around at what jobs are asking for that and know you can do that. That's your current floor. So I find each certification that I got was an upgrade to my floor where I know this is my baseline. I'm shooting for more, but I know I'm never going to be below this floor again. Well, one thing that I had happen early in my career is each time I went after certification, I had people tell me, oh, well, you don't really need that right now. You'll need that later on when you're doing something else. But I never listened to that because why would I wait to get something that I need to do something else? I want to be prepared to be able to do something else whenever the opportunity presents itself. And so think of it this way. Each certification is both a tool and something to prepare you for what is ahead of you. And it can only benefit you in making sure you're as knowledgeable as possible.
Thanks a lot. That's exactly what I was looking for. And I also have another question specific to a few of the certifications that you have already, like CISP, CISO, CISM. So in most instances, CISSP is considered like the gold standard certification of cybersecurity. So are there any other certifications beyond the ones that you currently carry that you feel like align with what you do, or what it is that you ultimately want to do, since you have a lot of like the big pillar certs already?
I would say I maxed out the CISA is sort of like an audit specific one, but for the CISM and the CISSP, those are the generalist certifications where you have a baseline general knowledge of security. But there's specialist certifications too. There's the OWASP, like the offensive security certifications. There's pen testing. There's certified ethical hacker. There's incident handler. There's more specific GRC certifications. There's more specific network security certifications or networking certifications. So I would say the CISSP is a gold standard in being a generalist, but from there, there's more specific paths that you can go on once you understand that that's what you want to do. Some people can go heavy in encryption. Some people can go heavy on privacy and go on the law side of it. It really is open-ended. And one area that I'm looking to dive deeper into is the AI piece because it's so new. I see it as the next frontier. And I want to be prepared to be able to leverage all my current experience within the realm of AI because it's going to be so essential in the future.
Thanks a lot.
And I definitely want to add to that, like you guys, once you even get your security plus, you can really go in a rabbit hole of, hey, like, what niches really serve me, right? Um, as Kareem said, your CISSP is, once you get more, comfortable and relaxed into cybersecurity, you're eligible to get your CISSP or your CISA. But I mean, honestly, you can even take those and blend them with, like Kareem said, with law, with sales, with you know, uh, healthcare, even like HIPAA, right? So, it's like Kareem said, baby steps, right? Get your baseline certification. Your super baseline is going to be your security plus, but once you get that experience and you really know what you want, that's when you specialize. Because when you specialize, that's the opportunity to make way more money because you know something that a lot of people don't know, but it's still in demand. So just always thinking about specialize into a niche, right? There's also like things like PCI DSS, payment card industry, cybersecurity, right? So, our cohort will really help you understand like a pathway to go. But once you choose a pathway, master that pathway like your life depended on it, because that's how you earn the accolades and the big bucks. All right. Go ahead, Mel.
Yes. Question I have for you. Can you kind of walk me through like what your process is for like identifying organizational risks? So like, how do you, I think that more so through your risk assessments, but how do you like prioritize them and ensure that they're being mitigated, as well as like what the process is for like communicating that across the necessary like stakeholders or departments that need to be aware of the potential risk to their process or day-to-day tools that they're accessing?
Sure. So one thing that I highly recommend is using templates that exist online. For example, ISACA has plenty of audit plans and assessment plans that detail the different types of risks that are out there for different areas, the software security risks, their physical security risks that there might be, and recommends controls for them. But I really like the idea also of breaking down risk in a matrix of looking at the company in different parts, department by department, and then thinking, well, what applications or what systems does that department use? And then what are the risks to those applications? Because at the end of the day, the unit, the atom of each company is data and applications. What we're all trying to protect is data and make sure that it's going from the right place to the right place and it's not being seen by the wrong folks. And the way data gets to each place that it needs to get to, APIs, it's on databases, it's on servers, it's going through applications, and those applications are used by teams, who are part of departments, who are part of, more departments and more teams, et cetera, et cetera. So really thinking about what's important to this team, why is it important to them, what is the biggest risk to it based on industry best standards, industry information, and using a risk-based approach to recommend controls or actions to help them protect themselves. And as far as notifying, it's just having conversations and being like, okay, I see you guys use Salesforce a lot. That's very important. What's on your Salesforce? Who has access to your Salesforce? Are you doing role-based access control? Is it encrypted? Is it encrypted at rest in transit? Okay, are you doing backups? Just those standard questions, especially because a lot of the best things that teams can do for security is pretty standard. So it's more just taking that frame, applying to different areas. And frameworks are a big part of that, like the NIST framework, the COBIT, COSO. There's a million different frameworks that you can apply, but all the same basic stuff is keep data safe from people who shouldn't have access to it. And also make sure the business can run. Those are all those different frameworks in a nutshell.
Gotcha. Appreciate that. Thank you.
All right. Anybody have any last questions? We'll do one more question, and then I'll share some important information, and then we can get out of here.
I would just,
You're good.
you got it.
My question was specific about Security Plus and that requirement a few years ago that the DoD made for those I think it was 8540 roles or whatever the certification requirement is, but that basically just opens up your ability to like dive into like the gov tech space. So can you just kind of give some insight on the importance of meeting those or having a few of those DoD baseline security certifications to make yourself like more marketable?
Oh, exactly. Where some places can be very literal about what they expect from applicants, and recruiters might just filter based on what folks have or don't have. So even if you can do every single aspect of the job better than anybody else, if they filter by Security Plus, they won't see you. So certifications, in addition to all the benefits that we talked about before, are vehicles through which you can be seen. And especially areas that really require them as a baseline, it's important to be able to meet that baseline and then go off from there.
Perfect. Thanks a lot.
Perfect, perfect. Hey, Kareem, before I get into announcements, do you want to plug yourself in? LinkedIn, Instagram, email, or anything you got going on?
Sure, sure, sure. So my LinkedIn and my Instagram are just me, Kareem Mathias. I can type the name. Well, I guess you see my name right here. Just look up Kareem Mathias on LinkedIn. Look up Kareem Mathias on Instagram. I'll come up. As far as what I'm working on, just researching AI. I'm taking an AI governance course I'm very excited about in the fall,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
continue to expand from there. Looking forward to keeping up with you folks. And if anyone wants to reach out to me, reach out. Yeah, that's LinkedIn or Instagram are the best ways to reach me. And I really enjoyed talking to you all tonight. It was a real treat.
Kareem, thank you so much. You gave us so much value in this conversation tonight. A lot of people have been interested in governance, other than doing the real techie cyber stuff. So, very great insight. We'd love to have you come on again in the near future. And
Oh,
yes, thank you so much. So much. All right.
thank you. Thank you.
Cool.
Thanks again,
Cool,
Kareem.
cool, cool. Cool, cool, cool. Let me so before we get out of here, I'm just going to share some important announcements real quick. Just going to share my screen. So just for our cybersecurity cohort, the last day to RSVP on the cohort is August 19th, which is next Monday, right? So once you RSVP, you'll be sent the the application. So actually on the website, you'll see the application form. So make sure you fill out the application form. I'll send it to people who have attended the Zoom as well. And then the first day of the cohort is really on August 22nd, right? So we start at 6:30 p.m. That's supposed to be uh, Central Standard Time, not EST. So if you're on the East Coast, you start at 7:30 EST, and then we go from 7:30 to 9:30 or 6:30 to 8:30, depending on the time zone. And it's all on Zoom. Remember that Fridays are optional, and the lectures are recorded, right? A good thing about our cohort program, we have a 14-day money back guarantee. So essentially, the first 2 weeks of the cohort is free. So if you want to attend and get a taste of what we do at Tech Hub Labs, you are free to apply and attend and see what we do. All right. But make sure you don't waste time applying because we only have like at this point, we have like two two spots left after the raffle. So make sure you guys also do the raffle as well. That's been sent to your email because we have a free spot that's opening up. But yeah, and then August 23rd is most likely, a deadline for folks needing more time to finalize, money, finalizing enrollment as well. All right. So again, that this is a 14-week cybersecurity uh, and AI course, going over cybersecurity skills, labs, and then professional development with portfolios, resumes, LinkedIn revamps. And then we also work with job placement, right? We bring you in front of our partners that we work with, right? And yes, make sure that you have a reliable computer. Okay. So if anybody has any questions, I'll stick on for a little bit. Anybody, has another question for Kareem, he'll stick on for a minute or two. But that is it. You guys have a good rest of the evening. And I can't wait to see you guys soon. All right. All right. Have a good one. My folks. Okay. All good. What's up, Latoya? How you doing?